What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of Bizarre Cars from Facebook Marketplace, where I share with you some of the odd car listings I've come across. Let's crack a cold one and take a look. First up, we have this 2004 Buick Rendezvous for $5,000. This ad is pretty self-explanatory in that somebody at some point decided it was a good idea to throw this on an 80s Chevy truck frame and turn it into a mud truck. I must say, I think 16 to 23 miles per gallon is very generous for a vehicle like this, not that it matters anyway due to the fact that it doesn't have a title and likely never sees pavement. Now, I'm all for mud trucks. However, a Buick Rendezvous is not exactly the first vehicle that comes to mind when I think of things to lift like this. I can't completely hate it though. It does have a bit of an oddball cool factor and I can't quite figure out why. Also, rip Scott Smith, whoever you were. I'd give this ad 3 lug nuts out of 5 for simply being interesting. Next up, we have yet another Buick mud truck, as if a Rendezvous wasn't absurd enough. This is a 2000 Buick Park Avenue for $2,500, and by the looks of it, it's a complete death trap. There's something almost Mad Max about this vehicle, and I can't quite figure out whether it's because of the black rattle can painted body, the rather haggard fender flares, or yeah, it's a Park Avenue on a truck frame. It's plainly obvious that this vehicle was not meant to fit on such a frame simply by looking at how it sits right on the top. It looks like there's not a whole ton holding this thing on, and I'd be absolutely terrified of driving this vehicle without approximately 10 beers in my system. Evidently, it holds up decently well because the interior shots plainly show that it has been used and abused just as a mud truck should. I'd give this ad 1 lug nut out of 5 because it's absolutely terrifying. Next, we have this 1989 Chevrolet Lumina minivan for $1,500. Now, this is actually completely wrong because it's pretty obvious that this is a Pontiac Transport, but I suppose it really doesn't matter anyway because this is yet again another mating of 2 unlikely vehicles. A GM Dustbuster minivan is a sight to behold in the first place, and it certainly is not the prettiest in my opinion. Throw it on top of, yeah, you guessed it, an 80s Chevy truck frame with a small block V8, and it goes from a sight to behold to a sight I never want to see again. At least it's large enough and has the seating to take all your buddies on an adventure they'd never forget. I certainly wouldn't know how to react if somebody told me they went mudding in a lifted Dustbuster. I'd give this ad 3 lug nuts out of 5 because honestly, I'd rather drive this than chance killing myself in that Buick Park Avenue. Next, we have this 2011 Chevy HHR for $3,500. At this point, I really don't need to say what frame this body was thrown on top of. We can already guess. The HHR is often compared to the PT Cruiser because GM tried to design a modern version of a vintage body style. Some people hate them and some people love them. And personally, I'm kind of in the middle camp, but I'd rather be seen driving this monstrosity than your average run-of-the-mill HHR. The front and rear bumpers look like they came off of a Tonka truck. I certainly wouldn't want to be the person that gets rear-ended by this. Its stature is also something to marvel at because it appears to sit so tall it almost looks completely top-heavy. I wouldn't want to take any corners at high speed because I'm sure I would probably end up in a pretty sticky situation. I'd give this ad 3.5 lug nuts out of 5 because I actually kinda like it, but I don't really have the heart to give it 4. And finally, we have this 2004 Chevy Suburban for $69,000. It's pretty obvious by the price and the complete absurdity of this vehicle that the seller posted this as a joke. I do quite like the term Suburbalanche though. This thing is the SUV equivalent to Ricky's Shipmobile from Trailer Park Boys, complete with the missing doors and random spray paint across the sides. It can be easily assumed that this vehicle was born from an evening of cheap beers and bad ideas. In fact, it kinda looks like Heineken was one of the culprits. Now, not only can you assume this idea was fueled by alcohol, but you can also assume it fueled the end result. I'd give this ad 5 lug nuts out of 5 for the boys. That's it for today, folks, but I have a ton more listings ready to fire at you in the near future. If you come across a marketplace ad that you feel should be included in one of my future videos, you can find my email address in the video description. Cheers, and I'll see you next time.